It was a cold, quiet evening in the small town of Willow Creek. The streets were empty, the lights from the shops dimming as night fell. Sam, a 35-year-old man with messy brown hair and tired eyes, was walking down the sidewalk, heading home after a long day at work. He had worked as a mechanic for the past 10 years, fixing cars in a small garage. Life had been simple, even a bit boring at times, but Sam was content. He lived in a small house on the edge of town, far enough from the noise of the city, but close enough to feel the warmth of the community. Tonight, like most nights, he was looking forward to a quiet evening at home, eating dinner and watching TV. But as he walked down the street, he noticed something strange. A black car was parked by the side of the road, its engine running. 2 police officers were standing beside the car, looking around as if they were waiting for someone. Sam thought nothing of it at first. It wasn't unusual to see police cars in the area. They had their usual patrols. But as he got closer, one of the officers, a tall man with sharp features, turned and walked toward him. Sam felt a knot tighten in his stomach. There was something off about the way the officer looked at him. The officer was silent for a moment, just staring at him. Sam felt his pulse quicken, but he tried to stay calm. "Excuse me, sir," the officer said, his voice firm but not unfriendly. "Can I ask where you're headed?" Sam blinked in surprise. He had never been stopped by the police before. "I'm just heading home," Sam said, trying to keep his voice steady. The officer nodded, his gaze never leaving Sam. "We have a report of a robbery nearby. Someone matching your description was seen running down this street. Do you mind if we ask you a few questions?" Sam felt his heart race. "What? I haven't been anywhere near a robbery. I'm just walking home." The officer didn't seem convinced. "Just stay right here," he said, his hand moving toward his radio. He pressed the button on the side, his voice low as he spoke into it. "We've got a suspect here. Send backup." A cold chill ran down Sam's spine. He tried to explain again, but the officer wasn't listening. Sam wasn't used to this. He had never been in trouble with the law before, and he couldn't understand why they were treating him like a criminal. "Look, I'm telling you, I didn't do anything," Sam said, his voice shaking a little now. "I'm just trying to get home." The officer's expression hardened. "Stay calm, sir. We just need to make sure everything checks out. If you're innocent, there's nothing to worry about." Sam could feel the tension in the air, thick and uncomfortable. The officer stepped closer to him, his hand moving toward Sam's shoulder. Sam instinctively took a step back, not sure what was happening. His mind raced, and his thoughts began to spiral. Was this some kind of mistake? Why was he being treated like a criminal? Before Sam could say anything more, another police car pulled up, its lights flashing bright red and blue. 2 more officers stepped out of the car, both of them walking toward Sam. They didn't speak at first, just sized him up with cold eyes. The original officer nodded at the newcomers. "This is him. We're detaining him for questioning." Sam's heart sank. He couldn't believe it. He was being arrested, and he had no idea why. He opened his mouth to protest, but the officer raised a hand to stop him. "We'll sort it out, but for now, you're coming with us." Before Sam could even process what was happening, the officers pulled out a pair of handcuffs and snapped them around his wrists. The cold metal bit into his skin, and for the first time, Sam felt fear wash over him. His breath came in shallow gasps as he was led toward the police car. "This is a mistake," he shouted, but no one was listening. They didn't even look at him as they shoved him into the back of the car. The car doors slammed shut with a heavy thud, and the engine roared to life. As the car began to move, Sam sat in the back seat, staring at the blurry streetlights passing by. His mind raced, trying to understand what was going on. He kept telling himself that this was all just some horrible mistake. He had done nothing wrong. He had simply been walking home from work, nothing more. But despite his protests, the officers didn't seem to care. The radio crackled with static, and Sam heard one of the officers talking to someone on the other end. "We've got him in custody," the officer's voice said. "We're bringing him in now." Sam's mind was spinning. What had he done to deserve this? Why were they treating him like a criminal? The questions piled up in his head, but no answers came. All he could do was stare out of the window, helpless, as the police car sped toward the station. The silence in the car was suffocating. Sam couldn't stop his thoughts from racing. The harder he tried to make sense of the situation, the more confused he became. He didn't know it yet, but his life was about to change forever. The truth of what had happened was still out of reach, and the journey to uncover it would be filled with twists and turns. But for now, all Sam could do was wait and hope that somehow someone would realize the mistake and set him free. As the car pulled into the police station, Sam's stomach churned. The lights of the station flickered in the distance, and a wave of dread washed over him. What would happen next? "You said." The police station was colder than Sam expected. As soon as the car came to a halt, one of the officers opened the door, and Sam was pulled out roughly. His handcuffs clinked loudly in the quiet night air, and the sound echoed in his ears. His feet shuffled on the gravel as he was escorted through the station's main entrance. Inside, the station was dimly lit, with harsh fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. The hum of phones ringing and the clatter of keyboards filled the air, but Sam barely noticed. His mind was still reeling from everything that had happened so quickly. His stomach twisted in knots. He had been arrested. He hadn't done anything wrong, yet here he was, being treated like a criminal. The officers marched him down a narrow hallway and stopped in front of a small interrogation room. The door swung open with a creak, and Sam was shoved inside. The room was stark, with a metal table in the center and 2 chairs on either side. A single light hung overhead, casting a harsh glow on the walls. Sam was pushed into one of the chairs, the metal biting into the back of his legs. The door clicked shut behind him, and he was left alone in the small, cold room. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. His mind raced as he tried to understand how this was happening. What had gone wrong? Why had the police arrested him? He kept thinking about the robbery they'd mentioned. He had no connection to it, none at all. He had never even been near the scene of the crime. His only crime, as far as he knew, was being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Finally, the door opened again, and 2 officers stepped in. The first was the same officer who had stopped him on the street, the one with the sharp features and cold eyes. His name tag read Officer Harris. The second officer was a woman, younger, with dark hair pulled back into a tight ponytail. She had a notebook in her hand, ready to take notes. "We'll make this quick," Officer Harris said, his voice flat and impersonal. He took a seat across from Sam, staring at him without blinking. "Now, we're going to ask you a few questions. You'll answer them, and if you're honest, we'll sort this out. But if you're hiding something, well..." His voice trailed off, leaving the threat hanging in the air. Sam felt his throat tighten. He wasn't hiding anything. He was telling the truth. But how could he convince them of that? How could he explain that he was innocent when they seemed so sure he wasn't? "I told you already," Sam said, his voice shaking with frustration. "I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just a mechanic. I was walking home from work, and the next thing I know, you guys have me cuffed and thrown in the back of a car." Officer Harris glanced at the woman, who scribbled something in her notebook. "You're not the first person to claim innocence," she said, her voice softer than Harris. "But you're the one we found at the scene. You're the one we're investigating. Now let's start with your name. Is it Sam Carter?" Sam nodded, his throat dry. "Yes, that's my name." "Good. Now tell us where you were just before we stopped you," Harris said. "What were you doing?" "I told you, I was just walking home," Sam said, his voice tight. "I work at Harris's garage on Elm Street. I left around 6, just like every day. I was heading home, I swear." Harris leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "You didn't stop anywhere. You didn't talk to anyone." Sam shook his head. No, I didn't. I swear. I wasn't involved in any robbery. The woman officer, who hadn't spoken much, looked up from her notebook. What's in your wallet? She asked. Sam blinked. My ID, credit cards, a few receipts. Why? Harris's eyes glinted, and he glanced at the woman. That's something we need to check, Sam. You don't mind, do you? Before Sam could respond, Officer Harris stood up and walked over to where Sam had been told to place his wallet on the table earlier. He took it, flipping it open carefully as if inspecting something fragile. Sam's heart beat faster. It was just a wallet. There was nothing special about it, just the usual things you carry around. But when Harris reached inside, his fingers froze. He pulled out a small, crumpled piece of paper and unfolded it slowly. Sam couldn't see what was written on it from where he sat, but the officer's face darkened. What is this? Harris demanded, holding the paper up. Sam could feel his chest tighten. He had no idea what it was. He didn't even recognize the paper. I don't know, Sam stammered. It must have been something I forgot about. I don't know what it says. The officer turned the paper around, and for the first time, Sam got a glimpse of what was written on it. The words were in a messy, hurried scrawl. It wasn't a note to anyone in particular, but it mentioned something that made Sam's stomach churn. Help me, the note said. It's too late. They found me. Please, don't trust anyone. Sam's eyes went wide. That's not mine. I swear. I don't know where that came from. Harris didn't say anything for a moment. He just stared at the note, then back at Sam, his eyes cold. This came from your wallet, Harris said slowly. Do you know anything about it? Sam opened his mouth to speak, but the words didn't come. What was this? Why would someone put a note like that in his wallet? He had no idea what it meant, but his gut told him something was terribly wrong. The woman officer, whose name Sam still didn't know, looked at him with a hint of concern in her eyes. Sam, this note might be the key to something bigger. You need to tell us everything you know. Sam's mind raced. This wasn't just a case of mistaken identity anymore. This note, whatever it was, meant something. But what? And why did it have to be him who was caught up in this mess? I swear, Sam said, his voice almost a whisper. I don't know anything about this. I'm not involved in whatever this is. But the officers were no longer looking at him like he was just some innocent man. Now they looked at him like he was part of something much darker, something he couldn't even begin to understand. The truth was slipping further away from him, and in its place, confusion and fear began to take hold. The interrogation wasn't over yet, and Sam was starting to realize he was in far deeper trouble than he ever imagined. The minutes dragged on as the tension in the small interrogation room grew heavier. Sam could feel his mind spinning, each passing second pulling him deeper into confusion. The note from his wallet, the cryptic words that had sent the officers into a frenzy, hung in the air like a dark cloud. He had never seen that note before. He didn't know where it came from or who had written it. But one thing was clear. It was no accident that it had ended up in his wallet. Sam sat stiffly in the chair, his hands still cuffed in front of him. The harsh light above him seemed to grow brighter, more oppressive, with each passing second. Officer Harris had stepped out of the room moments ago, and now it was just Sam and the female officer, who had been quieter than her partner, but no less intense. Her name, Sam now noticed, was Officer Mitchell. She sat across from him, her pen tapping rhythmically on her notepad. Sam, Officer Mitchell said, her voice softer now, as if she were trying to ease the tension. I need you to think. This note, it's important. The words on it, they suggest something serious. It's not just a random message. Do you have any idea who might have written it, or why it was in your wallet? Sam shook his head, his heart racing. I don't know. I swear, I've never seen it before. I'm not involved in anything. I don't even know what it means. Officer Mitchell leaned forward, her eyes narrowing as she studied him. "You have to understand, Sam. There's something off about all this. You're not just some innocent bystander. That note, it's tied to something we've been investigating for months. People don't just leave notes like that unless there's a reason." Sam swallowed hard. He could feel a lump forming in his throat, his mind still racing. What was she talking about? What investigation? He had no idea what she meant. But the way she looked at him, it was as if he were hiding something. And in that moment, Sam knew he had to find a way to prove his innocence before it was too late. "I'm telling you the truth," Sam said, his voice shaking. "I have no idea what that note means. I don't know why it's in my wallet. Please, you've got to believe me." Officer Mitchell didn't say anything for a long moment. Instead, she flipped through her notebook, her pen still tapping gently on the page. Sam could hear his own heartbeat in his ears, the silence between them unbearable. He was beginning to feel like a trapped animal, cornered, desperate to escape, but not knowing how. Finally, Officer Mitchell spoke again, her voice low and thoughtful. "You said you worked at Harris's garage. Is that right?" Sam nodded, eager to latch onto any shred of normalcy. "Yes, I've worked there for years. It's just a small garage. We fix cars. Nothing special." She glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "Do you know anyone by the name of Marcus Walker?" The name hit Sam like a punch to the gut. Marcus Walker. The name hadn't crossed his mind in years. He knew Marcus. Sort of. They weren't friends, but Marcus had been a regular customer at Harris's garage. A man who always seemed to be in a hurry, always dressed in dark clothes, always asking for odd jobs to be done quickly and quietly. Sam had never thought much of him. He was just another customer. But now, hearing the name again made his heart skip a beat. What did Marcus have to do with any of this? I know Marcus," Sam said cautiously, his voice tight. "But I don't know why you're asking. He's just a customer. He's never been anything more than that." Officer Mitchell's gaze didn't soften. If anything, it grew even sharper. "Marcus Walker isn't just a customer, Sam. He's a suspect in an ongoing investigation, and we believe you've been in contact with him more than you're letting on." Sam felt a cold sweat break out on his forehead. He had no idea where this was going, but it wasn't good. "I don't know what you mean. I've never done anything wrong. Marcus was just a customer. He paid for his repairs and left. That's all." Officer Mitchell didn't seem convinced. She stood up and walked to the door, opening it just enough to speak to someone outside. Sam couldn't hear what they said, but when she returned, she held something in her hand. It was a photo. One of those old black and white prints, the kind you get from a police file. She placed it in front of Sam. Sam's heart skipped a beat as he looked at the photo. It was a blurry image of a man, but Sam recognized him immediately. The man in the picture was Marcus Walker, but it wasn't just that. The photo was taken in a dark alley, and in the background, Sam could see a familiar-looking car parked nearby, one that he had worked on just weeks before. A red sedan. "This is a photo taken from a surveillance camera," Officer Mitchell said. "It was taken the night of the robbery, just before it happened. That's Marcus Walker, and that's the car you worked on. We found it parked near the scene." Sam's breath caught in his throat. His hands trembled slightly as he looked at the photo. How could this be? How was Marcus connected to the robbery? How was his car involved? And why had it ended up near the scene of the crime? "Sam," Officer Mitchell said, her voice softening just a little, "we're not saying you're guilty of anything, but we need to understand what happened. If you know something, anything, you need to tell us." Sam was frozen, unable to speak. His mind was a blur of thoughts, none of them making any sense. Marcus was involved in something, and somehow Sam had been pulled into it. He didn't know how or why, but he knew one thing for sure. He was in way over his head. I don't know anything about it," Sam said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I swear, I just fixed his car. I didn't know he was involved in anything." I didn't know. Officer Mitchell cut him off, her eyes narrowing. You don't know anything. Not even about the ticket. Sam looked up, confused. What ticket? What are you talking about? Officer Mitchell's expression turned grim. The ticket we found in your wallet, Sam. The one with your brother's name on it. Sam's blood ran cold. He didn't understand. What did his brother have to do with any of this? Why was his name on the ticket? And why had it been in his wallet? You didn't know? She asked, her voice now heavy with suspicion. I swear, Sam said, his voice breaking. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I didn't even know my brother was. Officer Mitchell looked at him for a long moment, then sighed. Sam, you're not just caught up in a robbery. There's something much bigger going on here. Your brother's disappearance years ago. It's tied to this. Sam's world tilted. What was she talking about? His brother. How was this possible? The truth was slipping through his fingers, and everything he thought he knew was crumbling before him. Tell us everything you know, Sam. If you want to clear your name, now's the time to speak up. Officer Mitchell said, her voice unwavering. Sam took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He didn't know where to start. But deep down, he knew one thing for sure. His life would never be the same again. The world around Sam felt like it was closing in. The more he tried to piece together the strange events, the further away the truth seemed to slip. The mention of his brother had shaken him to his core. His brother, Ben, had disappeared years ago under mysterious circumstances, and Sam had spent years trying to move on, to forget the hole Ben's absence had left in his life. Now, to hear that his brother's name was somehow connected to this crime, to this whole mess, made Sam feel like he was drowning in confusion. How could this all be tied together? Officer Mitchell stood by the table, waiting for Sam to process the weight of her words. Her eyes were steady, but there was something like pity hidden beneath the surface. Sam could see she wasn't just trying to crack a case. She was trying to understand something deeper, something that ran beyond just this robbery. She knew something, and Sam needed answers. Sam, Officer Mitchell began softly, her voice carrying a hint of sympathy. You're not in trouble for your brother's disappearance. We're trying to solve something much bigger here. But your brother's case, it's part of a larger puzzle. A puzzle that's connected to what happened the night of the robbery. Sam swallowed hard, his throat dry. I don't understand. Ben's been gone for years. How can his name be tied to any of this? Officer Mitchell pulled out a new stack of documents from her folder and slid them across the table. They were a mix of photos, old police reports, and more. One photo stood out. It was a black and white image of a man standing in front of an old warehouse, the same alley where Marcus Walker had been seen in the surveillance footage. But the man in the photo wasn't Marcus. It was Ben. No, Sam whispered, his heart skipping a beat. That's not possible. Ben's not. He's not involved in anything like this. Officer Mitchell met Sam's gaze steadily. I'm afraid it's true. Your brother was last seen in that very warehouse a few days before he disappeared, and we found traces of his presence near the scene of several crimes that took place in this area. Sam's hands trembled, but he reached for the photo. He stared at it for a long time, as if willing the image to change. But the longer he looked, the more undeniable it became. That was his brother, standing in front of a place Sam had never seen before, wearing the same jacket Ben always wore. The last time Sam had seen him, Ben had been talking about leaving town, about escaping from whatever was haunting him. Sam had assumed it was just the usual stress from work, but what if there was something more? Officer Mitchell watched Sam closely, sensing the struggle in him. Ben was involved with some dangerous people, Sam. People who have been running things in this town for a long time. We think your brother was trying to get out, to warn others, but it seems he got caught up in something much bigger than he could handle. Sam felt a wave of dizziness wash over him. The world seemed to tilt again. What are you saying? You're telling me Ben was mixed up with criminals, and now you're saying he's connected to a robbery. Officer Mitchell nodded. Exactly. Your brother was trying to escape. We believe he found something he shouldn't have, something that led him to that warehouse. And those same people who were after him, they're the ones behind the robbery that took place a few nights ago. The one you're being investigated for. Sam's chest tightened. But I didn't do anything. I didn't even know about the robbery until you arrested me. How could I be involved in something like that? We're not saying you were involved, Sam. Officer Mitchell reassured him. But we think you've been unknowingly caught up in something your brother was trying to expose. He was in that warehouse because he had information about a bigger operation. And somehow, you've become a part of it. Sam shook his head, trying to clear the fog from his mind. His thoughts were racing in all directions. The idea that his brother, who had disappeared without a trace, had been involved in something so dark, so dangerous. It was almost impossible to believe. Yet the evidence was in front of him, staring him in the face. The warehouse, the photo, the connection to the robbery. It all added up in a way that he couldn't ignore. I don't understand, Sam said, his voice barely above a whisper. How did I get dragged into this? I'm just a mechanic. I fix cars. I'm not involved in anything illegal. Officer Mitchell's eyes softened. We don't think you're involved in the criminal activities, Sam. But we believe your connection to your brother is why you're in the middle of all this. He might have left something behind. Something that's tied to you. Sam's mind raced. What do you mean? What could he have left behind? He disappeared. There's nothing to find. There is something, Officer Mitchell replied. We've been tracing some of Ben's old contacts, and there's one name that keeps coming up. Marcus Walker, the same man whose car was involved in the robbery. The same man who paid for repairs at your garage. Sam felt his heart sink. Marcus. He had never known Marcus and Ben to be connected. He couldn't even remember ever seeing Marcus and his brother together. And yet, here Officer Mitchell was, linking his brother's disappearance to Marcus, the very man who was now the prime suspect in the robbery. How is Marcus connected to Ben? Sam asked, his voice cracking with disbelief. What does he have to do with any of this? Officer Mitchell sat back, her expression hardening. We think Marcus is the key. He's not just a customer. We've discovered that Marcus has been working with a criminal syndicate for years. They've been involved in a series of robberies and illegal dealings across the region. We believe Marcus was using the garage as a cover for their operations. Sam's mind was reeling. You're saying Marcus used my garage for illegal activities. How could I have not known? Most of the time, he paid in cash, kept to himself, and made sure nothing was out of place, Officer Mitchell said. But he was always in a hurry, always asking for quick, sometimes questionable repairs. We think he was involved in something much larger than just a regular customer. And your brother, Ben, he must have gotten too close to the truth. The warehouse, the robbery, and now this. Sam, your brother had information that could have brought down Marcus and his associates. Sam's head was spinning. He couldn't wrap his mind around it. Ben had never mentioned anything about criminal activity, never hinted at being involved in anything dangerous. And yet, all these clues were pointing to him. The note in his wallet, the connection to Marcus, and now the involvement of his brother. It felt like his whole life was crashing down around him. Officer Mitchell leaned forward, her voice more urgent. Sam, we need your help. We need to find out what Ben left behind. If there's anything that connects all of this together. If we don't act fast, we could lose everything. Sam stared at her, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. This wasn't just about clearing his name anymore. It was about finding the truth, about understanding what had happened to his brother, and stopping whatever dangerous forces were behind all of this. His brother's disappearance wasn't just a mystery anymore. It was the key to unraveling everything. And Sam had to find out what Ben had left behind before it was too late. The weight of everything Sam had learned in the past hours was crushing. His mind was a whirlwind of confusion, shock, and fear. His brother, Ben, had been involved in something dark and dangerous. And somehow, Sam had been pulled into the middle of it all. The connections were becoming clearer now, but that only made things worse. The deeper Sam dug, the more he realized just how much he didn't know, and how much was still hidden beneath the surface. As Sam sat in the interrogation room, his mind raced with questions. Where had his brother gone all those years ago? Why had he disappeared without a trace? And most of all, what had he left behind? Officer Mitchell's words still echoed in his mind. "We need your help." She needed him to find the missing piece, the thing that would tie everything together and bring the criminals to justice. But Sam didn't know where to begin. The door to the room opened, and Officer Mitchell stepped back inside, a serious look on her face. She held a folder in her hands, and Sam could tell by the way she walked that it was time for the final piece of the puzzle to fall into place. "Sam," she began, her voice steady, but carrying an edge of urgency, "we've made some progress. I think we've finally found something. It's not much, but it's a start." Sam looked up at her, his heart racing. "What did you find?" She handed him the folder, and as Sam flipped it open, he saw several documents. There was a map, a few more photos, and a letter that looked old, worn, and slightly crumpled. His heart skipped a beat when he saw the handwriting on the envelope. It was Ben's handwriting. Officer Mitchell sat down across from him and watched him closely. "We've traced Ben's movements before he disappeared, and we've discovered something that could be a breakthrough. This letter, this is something Ben left behind. We found it in the storage unit where he had hidden some of his belongings. It was addressed to you, Sam." Sam's breath caught in his throat. A letter from Ben. His brother had never written him a letter before. If Ben had known he was going to disappear, if he had known something dangerous was coming for him, then why hadn't he told Sam what was really going on? Why hadn't he left a clue? His fingers trembled as he unfolded the letter, the paper creasing under his touch. The words written on the page were clear, but the message was chilling. "Sam, if you're reading this, then something has gone terribly wrong. I don't know if I'll be able to come back, but I need you to know what I've gotten myself into. I never wanted you to be part of this, but now it's too late. You've unknowingly crossed paths with people I've been trying to escape from. They're dangerous, Sam, and they'll stop at nothing to get what they want. You've got to trust no one, especially Marcus Walker. He's the one behind it all. I thought I could get out, but I was wrong. I found something I shouldn't have, and they found out about it. Now I'm running, but I don't know how much time I have left. If anything happens to me, you need to go to the old warehouse on Hollow Ridge. It's the only place where I hid what they're looking for. If you find it, take it to the police, and don't tell anyone else. I don't know if I can make it out of this, but you have to be careful. I'm sorry, Stan. I never wanted to drag you into this." The letter fell from Sam's hands as the weight of his brother's words hit him like a ton of bricks. He could barely process what he had just read. His brother had been trying to escape from something dangerous, and now Sam was right in the middle of it. But there was one thing Ben had mentioned that stood out above all the rest: the old warehouse on Hollow Ridge. "That's where it all began," Officer Mitchell said, watching Sam's face closely. "Ben's warning about the warehouse is the key. We need to get there before anyone else does. This is our chance, Sam." Sam looked up at her, still in shock. "But I don't know where Hollow Ridge is, and I don't understand. Why didn't Ben tell me sooner? Why didn't he come to me for help?" "Ben was trying to protect you," Officer Mitchell said, her voice softer now. "He didn't want you to get involved, but it's clear that he was running out of time. He knew that whatever he had uncovered, whatever he had found in that warehouse, would lead to something bigger than him. And now it's up to you to finish what he started." The urgency in her voice pulled Sam out of his haze. This wasn't just about clearing his name anymore. It was about protecting what was left of his family, about finding the truth and stopping whatever dangerous forces were still out there. He had to act fast. "I'll go," Sam said, his voice firm. "I'll go to the warehouse. I'll find whatever Ben left behind." Officer Mitchell nodded. "I'll be right behind you. But we have to move quickly. If anyone else gets to that warehouse first, it could all be over." The two of them left the police station together, heading toward the old part of town. Sam's mind raced the entire way. He couldn't shake the image of his brother, running from something he couldn't escape, and the fear that Ben might be too late. But Sam had no choice. He had to see this through. When they arrived at the warehouse, the area was deserted. It looked as if it had been abandoned for years. The paint was peeling off the sides, and the broken windows were boarded up. A heavy silence hung in the air, as if the building was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Officer Mitchell led the way, her flashlight cutting through the darkness as they moved inside. The air was thick with dust and the smell of old wood. Sam's heart pounded as they moved deeper into the warehouse, the sound of their footsteps echoing off the walls. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. "Look," Officer Mitchell said, pointing to the far side of the warehouse. There, hidden behind a stack of old crates, was a metal door that Sam had never noticed before. It was rusted and worn, but something about it seemed different, as if it were deliberately concealed. "This is it," Sam said, his voice barely above a whisper. With a swift motion, Officer Mitchell pulled out a crowbar and pried the door open. The sound of metal scraping against metal echoed through the room. They stepped inside, and what they found left Sam breathless. On the other side of the door was a small, dimly lit room filled with boxes, old documents, and file cabinets. But one thing stood out. At the center of the room, on a table, was a black briefcase. It was sealed with a lock, and there was something about it that made Sam's pulse quicken. He stepped forward cautiously, his hand trembling as he reached for the briefcase. "This is it," he whispered to himself. "This is what Ben was trying to protect." As he opened the briefcase, he found a stack of files, photographs, and a small video recorder. He could feel his heart race as he began to look through the contents. This was it, the final piece of the puzzle. Everything Ben had been trying to uncover, everything Sam had been caught in, was right here. But as Sam sifted through the files, he found something even more shocking. Names. Names of people who were tied to a much larger criminal syndicate than they had ever realized. And at the top of the list, with a line drawn under it, was Marcus Walker. The pieces finally clicked into place. Marcus wasn't just a suspect. He was the leader. And Sam's brother had uncovered everything. It was up to Sam to finish what Ben had started, to bring Marcus and his entire network to justice. But just as Sam stood up, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed from behind him. He turned, and his heart sank. "Too late," a voice said coldly from the shadows. It was Marcus Walker. Sam's blood ran cold. He wasn't alone anymore. The moment Sam heard Marcus's voice, the room seemed to freeze. His heart pounded in his chest, and for a moment, he couldn't breathe. Standing there in the shadows, just beyond the dim light, was the man who had been pulling the strings all along, the man who had been the cause of his brother's disappearance. And now, Sam knew, he was standing in front of him, ready to silence everything. Marcus Walker stepped forward slowly, his dark eyes glinting with cold amusement. The sound of his boots hitting the concrete floor echoed through the otherwise silent warehouse. Sam's mind was racing, every instinct telling him to run, to escape. But he knew that wasn't an option anymore. His brother had been trying to warn him. Now Sam had to finish what Ben had started. "You shouldn't have come here, Sam," Marcus said, his voice low and threatening. "You're in way over your head." Sam's eyes narrowed. "It's over, Marcus. I know everything now. I know about you, about the syndicate, about my brother. You can't hide behind shadows anymore." Marcus chuckled darkly, shaking his head. "You think you understand. You have no idea what you're dealing with. This isn't just some petty robbery. This is business. And in business, people like your brother, they get in the way. They become liabilities." Sam's hands clenched into fists at his sides. His pulse was thumping in his ears. Ben wasn't a liability. He was trying to stop you, trying to expose what you were doing. And now, I'm going to finish what he started. Marcus's eyes flashed with irritation. You're a fool. Your brother wasn't trying to expose me. He was trying to run. And that's where he made his mistake. He didn't understand the power I have. He thought he could walk away. But there's no walking away from people like me. And now, you're making the same mistake. Sam took a step forward, his voice shaking but determined. No, I'm not running. I'm stopping you. All of this, the robberies, the crimes, the people you've hurt, it ends now. Marcus didn't flinch. In fact, he seemed amused by Sam's words. You really think you can stop me? You're just a mechanic. A nobody. You think because you found some old files, you can take down an empire. Sam's stomach twisted in anger, but he stood his ground. He wasn't about to let Marcus walk all over him like he had done to so many others. I'm not doing this alone, Marcus. The police are already on their way. This place is done. Marcus smirked. Oh, I don't think so. Before Sam could react, Marcus's hand shot out, pulling a small black pistol from his waistband. The metallic click of the safety being released echoed in the quiet room, sending a cold shiver down Sam's spine. Think about what you're doing, Sam said, his voice steadier than he felt. You're not going to get away with this. Even if you silence me, they'll find you. It's over. You've already lost. Marcus's lips curled into a cruel smile. You really don't get it, do you? There's no losing for me. I'm already gone before they even know what hit them. He raised the gun, pointing it straight at Sam. Sam's heart skipped a beat. The barrel of the gun seemed to grow larger with every passing second. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to move, to do something, anything to survive. But something in his gut told him that Marcus had no intention of pulling the trigger, not yet, anyway. He was enjoying this too much. Why don't you tell me how you're going to stop me, Sam? Marcus taunted. How you're going to change anything? Because I've got the files. I've got the power. I've got everything. And you're just in the way. Sam stood still, taking a deep breath. He remembered his brother's last words, the warning he had left in the letter. Trust no one. Sam wasn't going to let Marcus manipulate him. He wasn't going to let fear take control. Then something clicked in his mind. He remembered the briefcase, the video recorder. The recorder that had everything. The names, the deals, the evidence of Marcus's crimes. It was a weapon, one that could bring everything crashing down. And Sam was the only one who had it. With a sudden burst of courage, Sam reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out the video recorder that he had found earlier. He held it up, locking eyes with Marcus. Do you know what's on this, Marcus? Sam asked, his voice steady. This has all the evidence. It has everything you've done. Everything. Marcus faltered for just a moment, his expression faltering. His eyes darted toward the recorder in Sam's hand, and for the briefest moment, Sam saw a flash of fear in his eyes. But it was gone just as quickly as it appeared. You think that can save you? Marcus growled, his grip tightening on the gun. You think I'm scared of some old files? I'll kill you before you can do anything with that. But Sam wasn't backing down. You won't get the chance. The moment I press play on this recorder, it's over for you. Every dirty deal, every crime you've ever committed, it's all on there. The police will have everything they need to take you down. Your empire crumbles today, Marcus. Marcus hesitated. The tension in the air was palpable. Sam could see the uncertainty flicker in Marcus's eyes. Sam wasn't just a mechanic anymore. He was the one holding the key to ending everything. For a long, agonizing moment, Marcus didn't move. The gun was still aimed at Sam, but his mind was clearly racing. Sam could almost see the wheels turning in Marcus's head, the man calculating his next move. He was used to being in control. But Sam was different. Sam wasn't afraid of him anymore. Finally, Marcus's lips twisted into a smile, one that was full of dark amusement. "You think this little recorder is going to change anything? You're wrong. You're just as much of a pawn in all this as your brother was." Sam narrowed his eyes. "You can't scare me anymore." With one swift motion, Marcus lunged toward him. The gun aimed directly at Sam's chest. But before Marcus could pull the trigger, a loud crash echoed through the room, followed by the sound of shouting voices. Sam turned, and to his relief, he saw flashing blue and red lights outside the warehouse. The police were here. Officer Mitchell and several other officers rushed into the room, weapons drawn. Marcus froze, his eyes wide with shock as they surrounded him. "Hands in the air, Marcus," Officer Mitchell shouted. "It's over." For a moment, Marcus stood still, glaring at Sam with a look of pure hatred. He dropped the gun to the ground, his hand slowly rising in surrender. Sam let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. It was over. The police moved in, cuffing Marcus and taking him away, but Sam's mind was still reeling. It had been too close. Too many moments where everything could have gone wrong. Officer Mitchell approached Sam, her expression softening as she spoke. "You did it, Sam. You brought him down. Thanks to you, we have everything we need to stop him. And all his associates. This is the end of the line for Marcus Walker." Sam nodded, his hand shaking as the adrenaline began to wear off. It wasn't just Marcus he had brought down. He had brought down an entire criminal syndicate. He had uncovered the truth about his brother, about the danger Ben had been trying to protect him from. And now, Ben's memory would live on. His sacrifice, his fight for the truth, would not be forgotten. But as Sam walked out of the warehouse, the weight of everything that had happened began to sink in. He had faced his fears, he had uncovered the truth, and he had won. But the battle had come at a great cost. And for Sam, the fight wasn't just about bringing Marcus to justice. It was about making sure the truth was never buried again. And so, with the case finally closed, Sam walked away, knowing that no matter how dark the past had been, he had brought light to it. And in doing so, he had finally found peace. "You said